Hi, we're here with Luke and Barbara. We're going to have a conversation about Barbara's life, and thank you so much for coming with us today. Luke, why don't you ask for the first question?
Okay, so as a young child, tell me where you were born.
I was born in Ashland, Wisconsin,
Okay.
which is on the Great Lakes,
Okay.
Lake Superior.
Oh, nice.
And the reason I was born there, my mother had been a nurse, a student nurse in the hospital. So we went there.
Nice. Okay. What is your birthday?
July 7th, 1933.
Okay. Did you have any brothers or sisters? And
I'm the oldest of the living children, and I have a sister who's 18 months younger and a brother who's 5 years younger.
Gotcha.
We had a brother who died at 1 day of age.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, a year before my birthday.
I'm sorry.
Which is why my mother went to the hospital where she had been a student, because she wasn't going to take any more chances.
That makes sense. Yeah. Which brother or sister were you closest to, and what was your best friend's name when you were a young child?
I was much closer to my sister because our brother was so much younger. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, did you have any did you have a best friend, and if you did, what was your best friend's name?
Maybe primary school or middle school?
Actually, I had a best friend when I was in junior high. Her name was Shirley Marquardt, and she now lives here in California at the Presbyterian Retirement Center.
Oh, nice.
So we've been in contact over the years.
That's good. Okay. Tell me a story about your best friend and you when you were young.
Okay. Well, when we were young, in junior high, we both played the violin.
Oh, nice.
So we played in a little ensemble that we would go to nursing homes and retirement homes, and our little group would play.
That's nice. Okay. What is the name of your primary school, kindergarten through 6th grade?
When I we lived in Milwaukee till I was in about 5th grade.
Okay.
And then we moved to a place called Wales.
I think I actually know Wales.
It's near Waukesha.
It's not the country.
And it's a Welsh community.
Okay.
And we were the only non-Welsh.
What's Welsh?
From Wales. Near
Welsh
next to
or
England.
it's like English or from England, Welsh or from Wales.
Yeah, from Wales.
I see.
And we were the only non-Welsh. So we only stayed there about 3 years.
Luke has an interesting story. He was born overseas. He was born in New Zealand.
Yeah.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love New Zealand.
Yeah, great place.
Yeah.
What was your middle school? So, like...
Well, Wales is a town of 200 people. And so it has this schoolhouse that has 2 rooms.
Oh.
In the
So
whole school.
You have grades 1 to 4 in one room and 5 to 8 in the other. So.
That's a little hard to comprehend.
Yeah, gotcha.
And interesting thing, one teacher has to take care of all those kids. And the Welsh people were very conservative. And it was the time of Scarlett O'Hara.
Oh.
And so I would bring the book to school and read every day when we weren't having class, and the other kids couldn't read it because their mothers wouldn't allow it. So
Well, what was your high school?
I went to Wauwatosa High School in Milwaukee, which was one of the best schools. So Wauwatosa was the wealthy area, and we bussed into that school, so it was very nice.
That's good. Okay. Who was your best friend in primary school?
High school.
No, it's
Well, I know, but ask her high school, because you're in high school right now. Who was your best friend in high school?
Okay, who's your best friend in high school?
Sorry, Luke.
Really didn't have any.
Okay.
But you know, what we had was this little music ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
And the leader of our ensemble played the piano. His name was David Stivender.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up being the director of the New York Opera Children's Chorus.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a very, very talented musician.
Mm.
He wrote the music for us.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to dating. How old were you when you first started dating?
My first big date, and you have to remember I'm from a very conservative Baptist place
Oh, okay.
where you don't go dancing.
Mm-hmm.
So my first date was to the senior prom. I was a junior, and I was asked by the senior president, class president.
Wow.
Wow.
And somehow my mother got me a dress, and my father, I don't think, ever knew where I was going.
Oh no, it's a secret.
I'm sure he didn't. And we got there to the dance, and I had never danced.
I see.
So this guy takes me into an alcove and teaches me some steps.
That was sweet of him.
So we had a nice time.
That's good.
And now we dance all the time. So,
That's good.
Very good.
yeah.
What was your name of first boyfriend?
I don't know.
Don't remember?
But I had a boyfriend when I was at Wheaton College, and he was 6'6", and they called him Slim.
Mm. Very nice.
Sorry.
And I could walk under his arm.
A little bit of height difference there.
But he wasn't a real boyfriend, it was just...
No.
Gotcha. And actually, that actually answers my next question. Did you date a long time, and did you break up with him?
No.
You just didn't really start dating, it was just like a date sort of hangout sort of thing, sort of ish, not
Yeah.
really. Okay. The next question is about your marriage. Tell me about your wife or husband.
Your husband.
My husband, we were students at what was called Biblical Seminary in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started dating there,
Mm-hmm.
and the dean was very much opposed to it because he was from Syria.
Oh,
And-
old-fashioned.
You know, I have to interrupt this. It's better if Avo goes and...
Tell me about your husband.
Okay, we were students at Biblical Seminary in New York,
Okay.
and our dean didn't like it that we were dating,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, birds of a feather flock together. But it's amazing the things that are flocking together these days.
Mm-hmm.
But then I took him to my house in Wisconsin, and he met my parents, and my father said, well, Armenia was the first Christian nation, which it was.
So he saw the good in him.
So he was okay with that.
What's your maiden name?
My maiden name was Murray.
And is that Irish or Scottish?
Well, Scotch-Irish.
Scots-Irish.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit of a difference in culture?
Very different.
Yeah.
My father was more Scotch than Irish.
Okay.
There was no gray with him. Things were black or white.
Right.
And so there was a big difference.
Yeah. My father was 100% Irish, and my parents wanted their son to marry an Irish girl, old-fashioned, and my mother was 100% French Canadian, and their parents wanted her to marry 100% French Canadian.
Yeah.
So when they were dating, it was a little bit difficult.
Yeah, so I didn't have the problem.
Mm-hmm.
with a family like that.
Good.
That's good.
And I was so old by then, my father was happy that I was dating anybody, because people kept asking him,
I see.
because you know in the Midwest, you marry early.
Oh,
And he kept saying, well, my daughters are getting their educations first.
Yeah.
So-
At that time, in the 40s, 50s, people married probably around 16 to 20 years of age.
Well, they
women.
could have,
Yeah.
but, so I had gone to Wheaton College first, and while I was there, I decided to go into nursing.
Mhm.
So I graduated there in 3 years, and went to Case Western for
Oh,
nursing
in Ohio?
in Ohio,
Hmm.
and that was 3 years, and then I had to work to pay off the scholarship. So, and then I went to Costa Rica for the summer.
How was that trip?
Because I had college classmates from Wheaton who were with Latin America Mission. And so they said, well, come down for the summer. So I went down there and I worked as a nurse in their clinic.
Mhm.
And then,
Was the language barrier a problem?
no, actually, I had studied some Spanish before I went, living language tapes.
Hmm.
And I had listened to them 100 hours before I went. And then I had a Spanish teacher there. But it was interesting. I was working in the operating room.
Wow.
And so the doctors would be asking for things in Spanish. And so I had to listen to everything they said, because I didn't know when they were chit-chatting and where they wanted something. But then I had a friend who was called the circulating nurse, and she knew Spanish better. So if I didn't know something, she could help me out.
so kind of like a translator.
Yeah, so that was, and then that is how I got to biblical seminary,
Oh.
because the missionaries there had been there.
Mm.
And they wanted me to go there because there was a certain person who taught what was called the inductive method of Bible study. And so they wanted me to learn that. And that's how I ended up in New York at Biblical Seminary.
Okay.
Sounds a great story.
Yeah. Okay, so can you tell me about your in-laws and their family? And like how many brothers and sisters did your spouse have?
Okay. Right after we were married, we took a trip to Beirut.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember that my husband is a deserter from the Syrian army.
Hmm.
And you have to remember Syria and Lebanon were very close. Had they known he was in Lebanon, the Syrian army could have come for him.
Dangerous.
So when I traveled, I always had to go by myself. So I went to Syria, to Aleppo, to visit his parents. And I went with a relative. So we got to the boundary, and the Syrian army gave me a piece of paper. So I said to the relative, "What is this for?" He said, "It means they've seen you." So I just stuck it in my passport, which was a good thing, because I was supposed to have taken it to the police station in Aleppo.
Oh,
And then they would have asked me, who are you staying with? Who are you related to? All that kind of stuff.
I see.
So
It's like a pass. You got a pass from.
it was a pass from them,
Yeah.
and I was supposed to have it stamped by the police department in Aleppo.
So she had avoided that step, like.
But I didn't
that
know.
was- Yeah.
And so I got back to the border, and it wasn't stamped. So I had to go out to the guardhouse. And fortunately, it was a middle-aged man who was sort of relaxed. And I just play my innocent, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Stamps it.
Just
And I have to tell you about my husband's mother. Most amazing woman in the world. But I got on this train to go back to Beirut. And a young woman doesn't travel by herself in the Middle East. And I had been with the relative going, but I was going back by myself.
Oh, I see.
So she got on the train and she talked to everybody. And she said, "This is our bride. Take care of her."
Good.
Wow.
So everybody on the train felt responsible for me. So when I got off the train to go to the guardhouse, everybody's sitting there scared to death.
It's like, oh, please don't anything happen. Don't please don't anything happen. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then I got back on the train and we crossed the boundary into Lebanon and everybody's cheering.
It's like, oh,
You
my
made
God.
it. You made it.
So she was an amazing woman. She never spoke English,
Oh.
but
She must
She
have loved
was-
you very much.
she was a very wonderful person. She sang hymns all the time. Tell you a story about her and my father. We were in Encino around the pool,
Oh.
and my father and she started singing together. And they knew the same hymns, but one sang in Armenian and one sang in English. So they could communicate that way. So
That's pretty cool.
she was a wonderful lady.
That's cool. How old were you when you got married?
I was, I think, 28. Yeah, about that.
How old was Avo when you married?
Well, he's 4.5 years older.
Okay, so 32 or so.
Yeah.
Like 33, 32.
And we had our major possession when we got married was a pink Studebaker.
Wow,
What's that?
cute car.
A Studebaker is a make of a
Old-fashioned
car.
Old-fashioned car. They're no longer.
They no longer exist.
You don't know the history of cars, and that's okay.
Yeah, no,
No.
I don't.
But you wanted some history, so we owned a,
Yeah.
and it was from Wisconsin.
Oh wow.
And so then, a year after we were married, we drove out here.
Must have been a nice drive.
Yeah. And by then we had a little girl who was not quite a year.
What was her name?
So we drove out here with her.
What was her name?
That's Karen.
Karen.
Yeah. She's in the picture there.
Okay.
She lives in Georgia.
Georgia. What part? Is she like Atlanta area or?
She actually now lives on St. Simon's Island.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's an unusual place.
She loves it
Yeah.
there.
Good.
See, we had a thing, as we were raising our children, we also amassed property. And so it's almost 10 years ago now, we gifted all our property to our children.
Mm-hmm.
So our son owns a shopping center. She owned an apartment building. She sold the apartment building and was able to buy a fixer-upper mansion on St. Simon's Island.
Nice.
It's like The Sound of Music house.
Is it really?
With the patio facing the lake.
Of course.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, and has a gift in interior design,
Oh,
and they made the thing just gorgeous.
nice story.
And then she took some of the money and bought 5 properties, single-family houses. And so we got out of the hassle of renting an apartment building. And then our son has a shopping center. You know where the Burger King is? On Canaan.
On Canaan.
That was
yeah.
our property.
Nice.
So now my son is responsible for that.
Okay.
Neat.
And so we have no worries anymore.
That's good.
And
Okay. Well, actually,
and it saved a lot of problems because we could gift all that free, tax-free to them.
Gift tax laws, yeah.
And this way, we don't have to worry about anything. And my son, in fact, owns his house.
That's
And-
wonderful. That'll help probate.
And he wants, we don't pay rent.
Well, I hope not.
Well, he lets me know every once in a while how much he could be renting.
Exactly. Well, a lot of
Right.
money.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
I figure the appreciation every year is paying our rent.
There you go.
And,
That makes sense.
you
You
know,
can pay the gift. You can pay the taxes and the upkeep.
so, and we don't really spend money. See, my husband grew up, he'll probably tell you, in a refugee camp.
Oh.
They were Syrian refugees from Turkey. And I grew up during the Depression, so we never learned how to spend money,
No, it's a skill, isn't it?
and we still don't.
Yeah.
So we live on our retirement money,
Yeah.
I see.
and actually it's a good way to do.
Okay. Tell us about all your children. So the one child is in Georgia.
Yeah, and our son, he lives right across from Paramount
Oh, where the
Ranch.
fire was. Yeah.
Yeah,
You must have been really disconcerted when that fire came.
yeah. Actually, we were so fortunate, because our son is the locksmith, so he knows all the sheriffs
Oh.
and has good contacts with everyone. And he's also a mechanical genius.
Is he?
So the day of the fire, we were at his shop, which is next to the Burger King.
Oh, I know where that locksmith is. Yes. Yeah.
So at 4 o'clock, he says, because the fire had gone up, Ladyface come down,
Mm-hmm.
and they stopped dropping water on the fire.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of commotion. He says, well, let's see if we can go to my house.
I'm guessing the door was locked.
There were barricades.
Mm.
So we get to the barricade, and he knows the sheriff. And he said, we have to go get some medications and check on the animals. So she says, we'll go and come back. So we stayed for 5 days. So we were in the lap of luxury.
Oh.
You know, nobody knew where we were, and we couldn't answer. The phone would ring here, but nobody was answering. So we were very safe and comfortable.
That's good.
And the other advantage was this house and his house are in the same evacuation area.
Oh.
So Saturday morning, we could drive here and see the house.
Good.
And
You
It
weren't
was
locked
so-
out of the area.
it was so smoky
Mm.
that we just ran in, I got my medications and ran out again. But
Did you say you had animals?
we have no animals,
animals.
but
Oh.
he,
Oh, he just said animals.
he,
yeah.
he had,
Oh, he has animals.
yeah, he just said that to get through.
Sure, of course.
So
Now, so 2 children,
we have 2 children.
and how about grandchildren?
They each have 2 children.
Okay.
Our son has 2 daughters who are professional people.
Mhm.
One graduated from Pepperdine with the MBA. The other one is still at Channel Islands getting a degree in biology but wants to be a pharmacist.
Great.
Oh.
And my daughter's 2 children are, who knows? One was a beautician but got carpal tunnel, so now she doesn't do that.
Oh.
And the other one works as a waiter or whatever you can get. So they have no ambition or no.
Oh.
Whereas my son's children have drive and
Well, they probably love their grandmother regardless of their occupation.
yeah. But how is it to be at this age? It's not good. Because you know, we grew up on over the bridge and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. The horse knows the way to follow the sleigh through white and drifted snow. Nobody knows the way here.
Oh. Oh. Yeah, especially with that bridge burned down.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
The only time they come is if I put like a birthday party for Avo and invite everybody.
Or like maybe I put like something this way, this way, this way.
Yeah.
No, not that way, this way.
Yeah.
And like I
Well,
got
our
it.
son lives near Paramount, so he's on Cornell.
That's helpful.
Yeah,
That is really helpful.
but the minute we need something,
Mm.
he's here. But to visit and socialize, no.
Yeah.
And that's something I hadn't really anticipated.
You know, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between the elderly and children.
There really is.
Yeah.
They are so busy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going in April to visit our daughter. And so that'll be, hopefully it works out. But, this is why what they're doing at the church is so valuable with the prime timers. To give a place where people can meet together. Because I know my case is not the unusual. It's
No.
just how it is.
No. And this is one of the reasons for this project, that younger people can have an understanding of this generation.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that through conversation.
Yeah.
We do it through conversation.
See, the thing you haven't asked about is my education.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about your education.
Yeah, because I went to Wheaton College and got through in 3 years so I could go to nursing. And so my whole nursing education was free because I worked a year after I graduated for regular pay. Then I got a master's degree from I'd gotten a master's there at Cleveland. Then I got a master's from UCLA on a federal stipend, scholarship.
Focus loop.
That's my peacock.
Yeah, peacock.
He's my friend.
Yeah.
I've just never seen one before.
Yeah, they're
This
beautiful.
guy thinks he lives here. One day I went to get my mail and he walked me across the street.
I'm sorry, I'm just like, I've just never seen one.
He's gorgeous.
Yeah, he is
Yeah.
beautiful.
So then I got my master's at UCLA, and then I got a federal traineeship to get a PhD at USC. Again, stipend, free tuition. And then I got a postdoc, stipend or free tuition.
Well, you did very well for yourself.
I did very well. And so
Is there a field of nursing that you specialized in?
pediatric, and then I taught community health nursing.
Okay.
But what I really specialize in is qualitative research.
Okay.
And I told you I have a student now
Yes, you do.
who I've written a book with, because I developed a nursing model also for nursing.
Really?
And so we have the book on that. And then I have a book on nursing research, which is all my studies and all my students' studies.
Okay. Well, that's quite a body of work.
Yeah. So that's what I did after I retired. It took about 5 years to write the 2 books.
Must have been a great sense of accomplishment.
Oh, yeah. And just yesterday, 2 days ago, my student called me. She's in a doctoral program. She has to finish in 2 weeks
Wow.
A lot of pressure.
her paper.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a procrastinator. Anyway, she called me. She
A lot
said
of people.
she's studying use patients make of telecommunication for medical reasons. And she said, well, I think my study will just be a descriptive study, which is how many people use this, how many people use this.
Yeah.
And then she came up with something. Because how we do qualitative research is you think about it before you go to bed, and then you let your brain work on it. And so in the morning she came up with this hassle factor. the ratio between how hard it is and how much benefit. And so from that, we got into what's called a basic social process of weighing options. And we look at what is the major concern of the patients. And that is to have the best medical care I can get right now. And so they weigh the 4 options that are available to them. And so this is sort of exciting to me.
Sure, of course.
Because what we did is go from something that was totally boring to me. How many people did this, to this.
Yeah. It's like taking a poll.
to a grounded theory, which is what I teach.
Okay. That must be very rewarding to
It is so exciting
to turn this corner of a boring
to go from boring
dissertation.
to,
Yeah.
and now we have a theory of weighing options.
Did you ever see a movie called The Beautiful Mind?
Yeah,
And how his theory
yeah,
transposed through mathematics, but into economics and all these other
sure.
areas.
Because once you have the theory and you see how it's handled,
Mm-hmm.
then you can use it in any situation.
Exactly. Very transposable.
Anytime you have different options.
Sure.
So,
Okay, so we've got a few more questions. We're almost done.
Okay.
okay.
Did you ever change your occupation, or did you just stay in it?
No, once I became a nurse, I just moved forward.
Okay.
And,
Oh, okay.
and so, how I got into teaching,
Okay.
I was working in a newborn nursery
Okay.
at Kaiser before the days when we had machines. You know, monitors on the babies. You had to watch them.
Right.
And so, for instance, I had this little baby who would forget to breathe.
Oh, goodness.
So every place I went, charting or feeding another baby, I always had his bassinet with me.
Okay.
And if he'd forget to breathe, I'd wiggle his toe. And then,
You kept him alive.
so one day, I'm in the nursery and they float me up to a surgical floor. And I get up there and a doctor says to me, "What is my nursery nurse doing up here?" I said, "They floated me here." And so he was so angry, he went to the director of nurses and told her she was the kind of person who fixed it, that if he does that, he's going to fix me. He fixed it so I was never in the nursery again.
Oh.
So that happened Sunday night. Monday I get there and see the change in schedule. Get out of AJN, our Journal of Nursing, found an ad for a teaching job, called on Tuesday, had an appointment Wednesday, started on Monday. So that's how I got into teaching.
Well, you made
Because
things
I
happen.
loved the newborn nursery, and my kids were little, so it was comfortable.
Of course.
But because of that, and I just found out recently that this doctor who did that, I've played with him in an orchestra for 15 or 20 years and didn't realize he was the doctor who got me into teaching.
Wow.
Wow.
That's quite a connection.
Yeah, somebody pointed it out to me in a book club.
Wow.
And I thought, and he had just died.
Oh.
Oh.
So, anyway, that's how I got into teaching, from nursing.
If you had one piece of advice for new teachers with the years of teaching that you have, do you have any advice for them?
You know, you have to love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I was so fortunate. Well, my other piece of advice is you never work for someone who's not smarter than you are.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
It does, because I was at
Yeah.
Children's Hospital and I got fired by someone who was so dumb she couldn't even get a BSN
I don't know what BS.
That's a Bachelor of Science in
and
nursing.
a Bachelor of Science in Nursing. She couldn't even do that. So I was very happy teaching at Azusa because we had a dean who was very, very smart. And she knew how much time it took for me to work with each thesis students. So I never had a full teaching schedule. She always, I don't know how she did it, but she knew I had to spend hours with each student. So I had a very, very successful career at Azusa with this dean who was a very good administrator.
Okay. What's your husband's occupation?
He's a teacher. He'll tell you all about
Okay.
that.
All right.
Oh, and how he got to be a teacher, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
He was a minister,
Oh.
and he had a church in New York. And a guy came to be tutored in French. So he's tutoring this kid in the living room. And I stood in the kitchen, and I watched them for half an hour. And I said, he's a teacher. And so then we put him through school to get to be a teacher.
Great. What did he teach?
Everything.
Everything.
Are we gonna need to do this another time? Do you guys, hear you need to have places you need to go tonight.
Oh, no, we don't have to go till 6 o'clock.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
I just accepted the job number, so I don't have to be interrupted.
Okay, good.
So I had 2 calls to
Okay.
make.
So
I
anyway,
already took care of them.
We'll finish up. We just have a couple more questions.
one more, okay.
Actually, religion. What church were you raised in?
I was raised, the first church was a Hardshill Baptist.
Okay.
Then we went to the offshoot of the Lutheran Church, Evangelical Free.
Okay.
And then when we came here, we've been in a Presbyterian church because that was more neutral.
Okay.
But I've played the organ in Lutheran churches for 30 years
Long time to play.
with the Green Hymn Book,
Okay. You probably know that book pretty well.
the old one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What church did you raise your children in?
Presbyterian.
Okay. What's your favorite Bible verses or part of the Bible? Oh, sorry. Let me say that again. What's your most favorite Bible verses or part of the Bible?
You know something? I'm beginning to like the Psalms. I used to just skip through them, but now I'm seeing how good they are.
What touches you about the Psalms?
The human emotion
Okay.
and the honesty
Mm-hmm.
and the praise part.
Mm-hmm.
So I never used to like them that much. I think in terms of books, the book of John is also a very important one.
Okay.
Okay. What are your favorite hobbies?
Well, number 1, organ, violin.
Oh.
Oh, so
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I have a 100-year-old violin.
Stradivarius? Or?
Yeah,
wow.
and my major hobby is analyzing data.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know I'm going over time with you,
That's
but
all
for
right.
instance,
Mm-hmm.
we read the book, The Underground Railroad.
Okay.
And what I developed out of it is a theory of escaping.
Okay.
And so what I do is read, I'm very interested in stories of, like Avo's story and that, of people who've had to go from one level, you're down where there's no hope, sort of hopeless. And then somebody sees benefit in you, pulls you into another layer. But I called it illusion of safety. You're not safe.
Right.
And people keep pulling you down to here and pulling in here, pulling you up. Until finally you have a cutting point where you escape. In Avo's case, he married me.
You're just waiting for that perfect moment to just
And then,
push.
see, before that, he has a student visa, he has no money, he has no nothing. So he marries me, and I'm a nurse, so we have a salary, a pink Studebaker, and a green card. So
He married up.
he married, and that's the cutting point
Right.
at which he got into safety.
Sure. And then he could flourish. He couldn't flourish before when you're trapped like that.
What's that?
You have no choices when you're trapped like that.
No, Down here you have no choices.
Mhm.
Here you think you have choices,
Mhm.
but you don't.
Right.
And it's not until you get it to be, and I call it freedom up here. It's freedom to make choices.
It is. It is. And happiness comes from freedom.
Freedom,
You know, when you know that there's nothing holding you back,
yeah,
and it's all up to you now.
yeah,
It's all up to you to push yourself.
yeah.
You know.
So my major hobby really is developing theories.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get you that book, A Beautiful Mind. I think you would really enjoy
Yeah.
that book. My father is brilliant, and he's a retired surgeon. His field was orthopedics, and he started off with polio, and then got into arthritic hips. And
I should tell you another story.
Okay.
Growing up was a time of polio,
Mm-hmm.
and my mother is a nurse. And so as soon as school was out, she packed us up, got on the train, and we went to Bayfield on Lake Superior,
Okay.
because her father's a fisherman. So we go out to an island, and we stayed there the whole summer.
Okay.
And 3 times a week, a boat came in from town to bring in supplies and pick up the fish and bring the tourists. So as soon as the boat arrived, we had to go in the cabin. And we stayed there until the tourists were gone.
Because of worrying about polio. Oh.
And we didn't get polio.
It's very contagious, Lou,
Very
and it
contagious
cripples you.
and crippling. And so that was how so for 4 or 5 years, we spent our whole summer on this island.
Must have enjoyed that.
It was very good.
What else we got, Lou?
What's your favorite kind of music?
Well, you can see it's Bach.
Yeah, it's Bach, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you already answered my question. What are your favorite performers? Bach. But,
Well,
you know.
organist. And my favorite hymns are from the old books.
Okay.
So,
You know, you said the Green Book, right?
you know,
Okay.
that's the Green Book. And the other things I love, I was organist 3 years at a Armenian Orthodox church. And these are the old chants,
Okay.
you know.
They've
And
been
they're,
around for 4,000 years.
yeah, they were beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So I was playing at a wedding,
All right.
and the groom was Orthodox and the bride was Protestant. So there was at a Protestant church. And while you're waiting for the bride to come, you play music. So I started playing some from this Orthodox book. And the whole groom's family started singing. So I said, okay. So I played through the whole book. And then they said, it's so nice to have an Armenian organist.
Little did they know
Oh, no, they knew I wasn't. But they knew
the book.
I had I love the tradition.
It's an old-fashioned tradition.
Yeah.
Well, this is gonna be my last question. How would you like to be remembered?
You know, how I want to be remembered is somebody who helped my students learn to think. And I have a student in Norway, and she's the one who helped us get the theory together the other morning. But she's the big grounded theorist
Okay.
in Norway.
I see.
And so that's,
All right.
Well, I want to thank you so much for the interview. It's been great fun. You've done so many things.
yeah.
And Luke, thank you for being a great interview person.
Yeah. When we were at a dinner for 8 at Dixie's, the question she asked was, have you accomplished what you hope to accomplish? And I said yes.
There you go.
So,
Well, thanks again.
so.